we talk a lot about, the corruption in government. We talk about the deals and the deal making and things like this. And something really got to me today that I thought illustrated 2 points simultaneously. And that was, and I'm taking this completely out of the realm of everything we've been talking about, but not really. That was the outcry over Sunday night's episode of Game of Thrones. Now, you don't have to watch the show or even know very much about it to follow this along. The idea is that now that this episode happened, in which a very beloved and character a lot of people cheered on got raped in a situation in which doesn't mirror the book. It doesn't happen in the book, the books at least not yet. And it was a surprise for everyone watching the show. The idea is that, a whole bunch of people are now saying that they are done with Game of Thrones because it's always been a show about rape. And it's just, they're done. Claire McCaskill had this to say. She said, okay, I'm done with Game of Thrones. Disgusting and unacceptable. It was a rocky ride that just ended. Donna Brazile said, sadly, this much is true, that Game of Thrones is a show about rape. Time to move on. People were just getting all out of sorts over this character. And the point that I wanted to make about that is that when you have a world in which, and this is what the universe of Game of Thrones is sort of like, warring entities battling for power and position, and people attempting to, the few people that have some kind of power, attempting to outdo each other using thousands or millions even of people as pawns in their game, and that alliances need to be protected and maintained, and therefore some collateral damage in the form of injustices just get to go by because it's getting in the way. If I punish that guy who's my ally for something bad that he did, I can't use him as my ally. That is what happens in a society in which law is breaking down and that the king is law. And you have anarchistic almost situations in which everyone is just in survival mode and the powerful rule, and things like rape are commonplace, things like murder, things like theft, things like treachery, all of that is commonplace. Game of Thrones is sort of a tiny little bit of a view into the sort of system we could end up having that starts with things like an executive branch that chooses which laws to enforce or favors some instead of others. And the thing that all these people took out of this show is that it's rapey. Are you serious?
There's so much stupid about this. I mean, it just seeps through this whole story. They're getting upset over fiction, which these characters are doing basically what they were supposed to. I mean, this was not out of character for these people, for the characters involved. It was something that did not glorify rape. It showed how horrific it is. So if that's your problem right there, that this sort of grotesque illustration of how disgusting and awful rape is, if that's, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's beyond me how they could have such a big problem with this, and then go into the fact that how many people are being raped and murdered and having horrendous things happening to them, being sold into slavery in the Middle East right now. And what are we talking about? Is Donna Brazile talking about that? Is Donna Brazile keeping up to date with all the stuff that's going on with ISIS? Is that with Boko Haram, who I believe I saw a story about them posting pictures of a bunch of impregnated girls that just appeared on the internet. There's like, seriously, you're going to get upset about fiction that actually showed how horrific rape is. That's really what your line is. This is really what your train of thought is, Donna Brazile and Claire McCaskill. Really.
And I guess the question I have is, are all of the feminists looking for their safe spaces going to stop watching Game of Thrones? Do you really think that's going to happen in college campuses among college students?
I'm just tired of the fake outrage that we end up with phony publicized clickbait headline article. Everybody wants to get their moment of being the most outraged about something. And we take these people seriously, and we shouldn't.
What labor unions do is they tie their contracts to a factor of the minimum wage. So everybody gonna get a raise in the unions if they fight for this, but they can't be fired. And so you have small businesses, mom and pop restaurants, say, that can't afford to pay their workers $15 an hour, and their stores are going to close. McDonald's will shift and change and adapt with technology that the mom and pop restaurants can't do.